As some of you might have noticed, it's been quite some time since our last episode, and a lot has happened since. We wanted to focus season 2 on special guests and interviews, but found ourselves too busy and spread too thin to really put out a good product. This season, we're taking a new approach that we believe will help us put together a better and more consistent podcast with a more interactive experience for you, our listeners. We have a lot in store for you this time around, and we're excited to continue this journey with you. You also might remember that last season was missing a very important member of our team. But we're happy to announce the return of Seth for season 3. Welcome back, buddy.
Hey, good to be here. Good to be back. I'm excited, man.
Excited. You want to fill us in on a little bit that's happened since our last season, or season 1, the last time we saw you?
Man, well, I dropped out of college like a bum. No, not really. I got a job working in the prison. Was doing that for a while. Had a couple jobs, and found myself back down here. And now we're all living together, sort of, and got a lot more time on our hands, and we're going to film the podcast, bring it back for you guys, because, well, since we've been active on Instagram again, I've gotten a lot of DMs, people being like, oh, man, it's about time you guys are back. It's about, yeah. It's like, all right, yeah, we're here. Let's do it. I'm excited. We got a great episode for you guys.
Yeah.
We want to just get right into it?
Give a special shout out to Kate as well. He's also back with us this season.
Flash yourself. Flash.
We're excited to be working with him again.
Yes, there he is. This episode is called Status Report. How's America doing right now? Not good, because we're here. If America was doing great, we probably wouldn't be here. So, wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we have a couple topics that we'd like to cover for this episode. First, we're probably going to cover COVID. Kind of talk about how that's played out over the last year and a half. And then we'll also get into some more current events with the border crisis and some bills going through Congress.
The bill. We're going to talk about the bill.
The bill. Which
First, wait, before we go, what do you guys think of the green screen? Seriously, comment, DM us. Like, if you think the green screen is awesome, we can do some pretty cool stuff with that, and you will see later in this episode. So if you don't follow our YouTube channel, make sure, I know most of you guys listen to us on Spotify. Seriously, go to the YouTube channel and, type in the Talk Shack. We're usually, I think, the first channel to pop up. Check out the green screen stuff we got going on for the video. It's going to be awesome. So make sure you guys go check that out.
Exactly. Yeah, we want to be more interactive this season, and the best way to do that is for us to hear from you and kind of take those things and incorporate them into our podcast. So we're looking forward to kind of interacting with you a little bit more and hoping to bring those things in this season.
Well, that said, that's the intro. Let's get right into the episode.
That's the intro.
Take COVID away, Trey. Yep. Take it away. Get rid of it.
So as I mentioned, it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years since COVID began, and initially it was 14 days to slow the spread, and it's been probably about 500. So
feels like,
I mean, it's pretty obvious that we were then and we still are being lied to about a lot with COVID, and some of it is just people not knowing, and a lot of it is just poor intentions.
So let's talk about some COVID hypocrisy.
Yeah, let's get right into it. One of the main issues that we've been hearing a lot about is vaccine mandates in the workplace. I know I have a lot of friends who are struggling with that, especially after Biden's mandate, where all businesses with more than 100 employees are to require the vaccination or have weekly testing. So my first question about that I've been getting a lot is that legal? Can businesses mandate that, and can Biden do the same thing? So the first thing I want to talk about is our state specifically. As a lot of you may know, we're in Pennsylvania, and PA is an at-will employment state, which basically means that the employers set the terms and conditions of employment and can basically fire their employees at any time for any reason, unless it breaches their civil rights. So based on that, I would say it is legal, but you're also free to...
Yeah.
Seth might not completely agree with
No,
you.
No, I mean...
But employees are free to seek employment elsewhere.
Yeah.
And employers are also required to provide religious and medical exemptions, but it's kind of at their discretion as to when to give those.
Yeah,
and
basically, it's... I was working at the hospital, and the hospital I worked at, I'm not going to give any names or anything, but the hospital I was working at specifically was not requiring the vaccine for its employees. No one had an issue with it at all. If you were vaccinated, cool. If not, cool. No one cared. And I personally think that's how it should be. Mm-hmm. But there's a few other hospitals around the area that I was working at, and they required it. And if you didn't get it, you either had to be tested every single day when you came into work, or they fired you. And so hospitals, a place where we probably should be fully staffed as much as possible, are so it's like crazy understaffed right now,
Mhm.
and that literally just because people aren't getting a shot.
Yeah, no, it's really crazy to think about, and that's
And sorry, but as some of you guys know, the military is doing the same thing right now. It's basically, get it or face disciplinary actions. I'm not going to get into any specifics, but I know people that are struggling with that right now, and there's some active duty people that are being treated fairly poorly because they are refusing to get a vaccine. And everyone's got their own opinion. I think it's wrong to require it, but for them to say units aren't, you aren't fully ready if you aren't vaccinated, bit bullcrap in my honest opinion.
yeah. No, I think you brought up a really interesting point about how unfortunate it is that we're treating the military that way. People that generally we respect what they do for our country to maintain our freedoms, and they're being treated this way, and it's truly unfortunate. And the same thing with hospitals as well,
Yeah,
where at the beginning of the pandemic, we're basically claiming,
heroes.
yeah,
They were
exactly,
heroes.
nurses,
They were.
they're heroes, and yeah, they
They
did a
were
lot of
and
very
are.
important work,
Yes.
and they still do. Um, and now it's to the point where a lot of nurses who they're medical professionals and they're uncomfortable with the vaccine and they're being forced to take it or lose their jobs. So I think that's a really interesting thing you brought up, and it's something that should change. I don't know that it will, but
Are you gonna get into religious? I
um
can make a quick point if
no, not really. It's just a brief
just
discussion of
okay. So basically,
yeah.
they're saying if you want to seek religious exemption, go ahead. I mean, you got to go into like legal stuff. Like it's not as easy. You don't just walk in and say, hey, my religion says I can't get vaccinated. Like, okay, that's no, like there's an investigation to make sure you're like in the military specifically, like if you do that, you have to go talk to the battalion chaplain, and they basically do an investigation to make sure you're not lying, and
Yeah.
and even so, like for me being a Christian, it's like I could do that. I could say, hey, I don't feel right getting this vaccine, but I don't know the number off the top of my head, but very few religious exemptions are actually going through, and that's across the board, not just the
Yeah.
military.
No,
So
that's accurate, and that was one of the things I brought up. So they are required by law, employers, and I'm assuming the military as well,
mm,
to provide both religious and medical exemptions. But typically, it is under their own discretion, and they get to determine what constitutes the grounds for both medical and religious exemptions. And oftentimes, they'll have their own doctor. Like you can't see your own medical
hmm
provider for that; you have to see theirs, and they'll give much fewer or like many fewer
oh yeah, it's the
exemptions.
numbers.
And religious, it's
Yeah,
almost
the
non-existent.
number. Yeah, it's like they're not giving religious exemptions. Basically, like it's just not happening.
Yeah. So like I said, I know a lot of people who have been put in a position that's really unfortunate where they have to decide if they want to keep working at that place. They'll have to get the vaccine or they'll have to quit. And
A
it's
lot of
really,
it's like, do you stand up for your convictions and beliefs and risk your job? Because ultimately, that's what it's going to
yeah,
cost you that. Or do you just conform, get it, and then continue? Like I don't know. Like that's the dilemma that we're in right now.
hmm
So
yeah, it's definitely tricky. And one of the other things I've heard, and that's why I brought this up, is about HIPAA, right? So we
yes,
all kind of have this perception that your employer can't ask for your medical records. And when I go back to Pennsylvania being an at-will employment state, they actually can. Your medical provider can't give your employer that information without your consent, but your employer can still ask for it.
yep,
And if you refuse, that's grounds for termination
yep.
within PA. Like that
Just like
doesn't go
withholding
beyond the law.
information in an interview, anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's something a lot of people have a misunderstanding of, where they think, oh, I can get a fake vaccine passport or
hmm
this or that. But employers can't ask for that, and if you don't give consent, it can be
it's
extremely
up to them
problematic.
with
So
what to go. Yeah, with what to do from there.
it just demonstrates really like how bad things are. Another big issue is vaccine mandates for schools, especially school age children.
This one, honestly, more so than the workforce, kind of grinds my gears a little bit because I have some personal experience with this. Um, it's retarded. It really is retarded. Go ahead and give the details about it, and then I'll share some
Yeah,
personal
yeah, sure.
experience with that, and then but
So there really are two aspects of this. There's vaccine mandates for colleges, and then also for middle and high school children
mhm.
generally. Um, so for college, I still don't believe it should be mandated, but there's more of an argument just because it is higher risk for people in that than it is for children
Yeah,
between 0 and 18.
and people are
Um,
coming from all over. People don't
exactly.
live in the same state
Yeah, and
necessarily.
I
So
still disagree with it, and I'm
oh
very
yeah, yep.
fortunate to go to a school where that's not required of
Hmm.
me. I am truly grateful for that because I know a lot of my friends that go to other schools that's not the case.
Yep.
Um, but when we get into this issue of school age children, it's incredibly problematic. Um, and people will make the argument that we require vaccinations for measles or for smallpox.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh my word.
I I understand that, and I think those things are important for one reason that really distinguishes them is the death rate.
Hmm.
When we look back at when smallpox and measles were kind of in their prime, the death rates were anywhere between 7 and 15%. So obviously that's very deadly,
Huge difference.
especially left
Then
unchecked.
yes.
And then we look at how COVID affects children, and I believe I had the data up until July where children between 0 and 18 made up 15% of all COVID cases, and only a fraction of a percentage of the deaths. Only 400 children throughout the United States had died from COVID. And obviously, that's still terrible. No
Hmm.
one should die. But the majority of those also had other conditions that kind of led to that.
That's how most of it is too. It's all these cases where people are dying. I don't want to throw out a number because it's probably going to be wrong off the top of my head, but like I would argue that most of them are from underlying conditions, other health conditions that COVID kind of
Escalates.
escalates. And but COVID itself is not killing children.
No, it's really not. And when we look at the numbers, the flu is actually more deadly to children than COVID-19 is.
Hmm.
And we do require the flu vaccine. In most cases, there are exemptions, of course, as there are with most things. Um, but it's very different than the way we should be looking at COVID as it relates to children because they're really not at
Not at
risk.
risk. No.
They're not, and it's impacting them in so many ways too. You think about mental health, and when you get into your story about like your brother and sister, I think it really demonstrates like how detrimental that can be for children's like their education and also just their mental health.
Yeah, their social experience. When you're a kid, you're supposed to have these experiences and educate. That's
Yeah.
those are the easy years, and now it's being taken from them. I mean, I've got my I've got two siblings still in school, and my sister just recently went to college and all that. But I mean, she would have been arguably a state champion in track.
Hmm.
Okay, and senior year was when COVID happened, and they took that from it was taken from her.
Yeah.
They canceled all sports, shut schools down, and I mean, thankfully she still went to she had 2 other years of great performance, so she went to a college and get a great she got a great scholarship. But I mean,
Now that
she could have had a fantastic season.
no, I definitely get that. And
And
I
not
have
just
some
my sister, every like your sister as well, in
yeah,
her sports.
and I have some people that I competed
Kate's
with back when
sister.
I was in high school, and basically he missed out on his junior season, right?
Very
And
important.
which
Junior
is
season's-
the most important
Yes.
season because most kids are not getting recruited, especially D1 in their senior year.
Yeah.
And between his sophomore and junior season is when like he would have made tremendous strides, right?
Yep.
Like he could be competing D1 and ended up at a D3 school where he's obviously not getting a scholarship or financial aid
Or the
because
training that
or the training, yeah, because of missing out on his junior season.
Mhm.
So like that stuff is a big impact, and I know in the grand scheme of things that doesn't really seem super important, especially when lives are at stake.
exactly.
But those are things that were unnecessarily taken away from a lot of kids.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just jump right into my experience with my siblings. They're both in high school now. My younger brother's now
It's
in
crazy.
a freshman. Like, whoa. Um, I'm not gonna say their school name or anything like that, but school year started fine. They all went. They weren't requiring masks, nothing like that.
Mhm.
No vaccine requirements, nothing. They all went. They were doing their thing for a couple weeks, and then Governor Wolf, good old Governor Wolf, decided to mandate that or masks in schools. Um, so that happened, and the school followed through with it. And actually, this is cool. Students and students' parents like flipped out and they started like revolting and not adhering to it. Yeah, obviously some people did. Some students, showed up with
Yeah.
masks on, but like the school board was getting flooded with angry emails from parents, and they were telling their kids like, "Don't put a mask on. Don't you go into that school with a mask on." I was like, "That's freaking awesome." My mother was one of those people that
parents,
was
yeah.
like, "This is free." She's like, "Good for you guys for not, conforming to this crap." So I was like, "Wow, mom, like cool." And anyways, so if you don't wear a mask, apparently they put everyone that refuses, they sit them in the auditorium, and they literally sit there all day in the gymnasium,
Mhm.
and they don't go to class, they don't do anything, they sit there all day. I don't know exactly, but I think if you're there a certain amount of time, they force you to do cyber school or something like that. But still, I mean,
Yeah, no,
forcing those
that's
kids to
crazy.
sit in an auditorium all day just because they refuse to wear them.
Especially when you consider like all of these arguments that we're hearing, or like, oh, we got to protect our children, we got to do
It
this and that
started as
for
protect
the
the
children.
teachers,
Yeah,
and now they're changing it
we've
to
definitely
no, no,
pivoted
no,
away
no.
from
We're
that.
protecting the children now who weren't at risk to begin with. But
Yeah, and you're putting them through those things where like that could be traumatic for a
oh
lot
my
of children.
gosh,
They're pulled out
the
of
the
class. They're
mental
not.
health, the depression rates are in children are sky high right now,
Mhm.
and I believe the suicide rates are as well.
Yeah, like we've decided that like everything else goes on the back burner because of COVID.
Yep.
Even to the point where like COVID's not a risk anymore, especially to children, whereas these other things are a lot more important, and we've just completely dismissed them.
Yeah. Dude, I'm sorry. I just keep getting distracted with the green screen. That is literally the coolest. We have it on display. The camera's right there, but behind you guys is the screen, and I'm just so cool, man. I love it. Seriously, it's awesome. This is a great purchase. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no,
Thank you, Dad.
it was definitely an exciting addition. Kind
Oh,
of
we're gonna have
bring a
some
little more professionalism to the show.
later on in the episode. We got a treat for you guys. We have a special guest, and I'm not gonna tell you guys who it is yet, but I'm excited.
Yeah, first special guest of season 3.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to natural immunity versus vaccination immunity. This is something, I mean, this is probably the biggest debate when it comes to the vaccine. It's some people think natural immunity, some people think vaccines.
Yeah.
We fall under the belief that natural immunity is that's we believe that's a better what do I say? It's the better
I mean, I would just say it's the better option of the
better
two. Like,
option. Yeah.
there's a lot of studies arguing for a lot of different things, and that made researching this topic incredibly difficult.
Yeah, the natural immunity is basically you get it, you get over it, you get the antibodies, and it's your body normally, really, fighting
how we work
fighting
with
it.
any other disease,
Exactly.
and how most vaccines work.
But this
Um,
vaccine is different.
Yeah. So generally when we get vaccines, we're getting a little bit of that disease so our body can build up an immunity to it. And that's not quite the way it works with the COVID vaccine, which is actually rewriting our mRNA. Is that right, Cade? You're the expert now.
Yeah, it is.
In a way that we can fight COVID.
Yeah, it's putting like false proteins in your body that helps
Exactly.
fight the vaccine, and we've seen side effects. We've seen people
But
that have been totally fine with it.
Yeah, even
So,
without getting into side effects.
But
Like,
we also-
I'm not going to argue for or against getting the vaccine. I will just come right out and say that, like, personally, I do not plan on getting it. I had COVID several weeks ago. I was fine, and I'm not too worried about it moving forward, especially because I'm young, I'm healthy, and I'm not really at risk for COVID to begin with. I got it. It wasn't bad, and I'm doing okay now. So, like, generally, that's where I would fall.
I'm glad you're still with us.
Yeah, wasn't too worried about that to begin with, but
I was.
like I said, there's a lot of studies. There's a lot of studies arguing for different things,
Yep.
and it's hard to interpret that, right? Because they can be looking at the same data
Mm-hmm.
and coming to different conclusions. So there were two main things that I kind of saw on this front that I thought were important to talk about. So I found this one study from Emerging Infectious Diseases, their September volume, and it was on the CDC website. And basically, the conclusion of that was that not all people who get COVID-19 get the antibodies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually, I think, as low as like a third of people actually do. The problem I found with that study was it was a really small like population. It was 73 people, I think, in the study. And it didn't account for negative or false positive tests, which we figured out are like they happen quite frequently.
Oh,
like
yeah.
these tests are not
Didn't
not
your mom
super
have
accurate.
that?
Yeah, exactly. Like she had COVID. was pretty sick, and then tested positive again a couple weeks later, and didn't get sick at all. And no one else around her got COVID or tested positive. So false positives, they happen, and they happen quite frequently. So that was my problem with that study.
Yep.
But I think it could still be accurate that not everyone who gets sick develops antibodies.
Maybe, yeah.
Especially if you're asymptomatic.
I'm not a scientist, but
Yeah.
we're looking at the data and we're giving it to you guys. You guys do with it what you want. Do your own research. That's one of the biggest things that we can tell you is
For sure.
you can watch the news or whatever, but I mean,
Yeah. Everybody has an agenda.
Yeah.
And it's usually pretty clear. Not always, and that's why you have to be careful. Getting into the second study, this one's out of Israel, and it actually studied 700,000 individuals. So,
Wow.
yeah, the population study was a lot more expansive. And it
it
was
they're probably
separated,
going to get better data too.
you would expect. And they separated these into three groups. Groups who had contracted COVID and not gotten the vaccine, those who contracted COVID and got one dose, and those who got 2 doses of the vaccine. So they basically studied all of these and determined how likely they were to contract COVID again, specifically the Delta variant. And the findings were actually pretty surprising. They concluded that those with natural immunity were 27 times less likely to be reinfected with the Delta variant of COVID than those who had been vaccinated.
Wow.
Yeah. So if we're going to take this study seriously, and others that have kind of proven the same things, they demonstrate that natural immunity is actually very strong and often lasts a lot longer than the vaccine, which they're saying is going to require boosters.
Yep.
So, like, it's
You
it's
have your
been
17
dismissed,
boosters,
but
Trey? Do you?
0.
Well,
And that's
shame on
where
you.
we're sticking.
Shame on you.
Um,
I should kick you off the freaking podcast.
you
That's
have
what I
to
should
kick
do.
yourself off the podcast.
Cade's gonna take your seat. Jeez.
Ah,
But yeah, stop crapping on natural immunity, people. It's fine. Okay, it's real and it's strong, like Trey said.
It is.
Oh, before we go any further, I hope you guys are in for the long haul because we're doing the status report of America. We're looking at all aspects of the country right now and how it's doing. So it's gonna be a tad bit longer than it usually is, but hopefully you guys are down with that. If you guys hate the long episode, make sure you let us know and we will adjust the next episodes accordingly. If you like the long episodes, let us know because we can talk forever. So whatever this is for you guys. So whatever you guys want, whatever you guys want to see, just let us know. We'll get into how to contact us at the end of the episode. But moving on to the last part of our COVID section from our COVID expert, Trey Bachman.
Definitely not.
No,
an
seriously,
expert,
he's
but
verified.
I'm not verified. I think
He's
it's
a doctor.
It's important that I say that I'm not verified and I'm not an expert in any of this. But
Verified. You verified on Twitter.
verified on Twitter. I wish.
That-
I have like 3
that would be-
followers.
That's more than the actual Talk Shack pod. If you guys got Twitter, follow the Twitter, please. Like, we post some pretty funny stuff on Twitter.
Honestly, I'd say the Twitter is better than the Instagram.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no one.
No,
I think
you-
we
you
are
get-
the only 3 followers. The Twitter.
you
page
get
has.
carried away on the Twitter page for sure.
I don't post on that. We're not gonna tell you who posts on all our stuff. That's gonna be anonymous.
If you say so. But back to what we were.
Anonymous.
Yeah, I can't even.
It's
say
got to
it
be
like
one
that.
of the 3 of us.
Wait, we've got about
Look.
5 other employees that they don't even know about.
Five?
Oh, okay.
5?
We have 99.
99.
Just so Biden can't get us with that mandate.
With that man.
Yes. Oh, dude, that was nice. That was a good
Shut
one.
up. So yeah, back to kind of the vilification of the
Vilify.
unvaccinated.
We had to let Trevor go. He was 100.
We did. We had to.
Oh,
Let,
yeah.
we had
to make
Trevor go.
an executive
It was
decision.
a sacrifice.
It
but
was a tough loss.
one that we needed to make.
For the betterment of the company.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Ooh. Trevor, we do miss you though, honestly.
we do miss
If you're watching. You better be watching.
I don't know.
Or we'll come to your house.
We'll send him the link. COVID.
COVID. Back to Trey for more COVID. I know you guys love COVID? Love hearing about COVID?
I think
Shut
we
up.
hate
Shut
hearing
up.
about COVID at this
Just
point.
shut up and listen.
But yeah, just kind of the state of our country as far as COVID is concerned, and specifically the unvaccinated.
Have we improved?
We've improved tremendously as far as death rates, but nobody looks at those.
Like, okay, as a country and how we're handling COVID, have we improved? Or are we kind
I
of
would-
falling back into how
I would
it
like to
seemed?
think so. Like, it's improved a lot as far
Temporarily,
as
it seems like
as far as how it's being handled. I don't know if I'd say improved. It's just screwing it up differently.
yes.
Um,
Dude,
but
you're killing it today. What's that,
Let's
ginger ale,
not-
dude? You're killing it
Ginger
today.
ale, yeah.
Man.
Mm.
Come on, dude. All right.
All right, yeah.
That was probably really loud. Oh my
That
gosh.
we're sorry about that.
Someone's gonna be
I,
listening.
honestly,
Like,
we should probably just change the subject. I don't even know where we're at with this, but basically just
COVID's stupid. All right, we're done with COVID.
Yeah,
It's
we
annoying.
should be back to normal, and
Should be, but we're not yet. We will be hopefully when
'Cause
we get
the government
someone that's
doesn't
in
give up
office.
power once it gets it.
Exactly.
The border.
Yeah, let's move
Wanna
on to
talk
the
about the
border.
border?
That's
Let's do
been
that.
pretty crazy lately, as it's been for the last, decade or so.
Yeah, just a
Um,
little crazier than the last few weeks.
yeah. So we're just gonna do a brief overview of what's going on currently with the border. Obviously, there's been a lot of stuff happening for years, but as of September, we're gonna kind of just address it from there to today. In late September, more than 12,000 migrants slept in tents or on dirt floors under the International Bridge in Del Rio, Texas, surrounded by garbage in stifling heat as they waited to be processed by the U.S. immigration authorities.
Yeah,
That would suck.
they would, and I feel like this has kind of brought attention to the issue again.
As it should.
It's something people see, they notice, and it's not the way that it should be.
No.
And it obviously raises some serious questions about border security as well. That we would have this many people across the border and just kind of taking over a small town in a sense.
Yep.
So what kind of discussions are taking place about border security, maybe a wall, and just where people are lining up politically?
So I was doing some research into how our government kind of views what we should do. Looks like 76% of Republicans, 46% of independents, and 16% of Democrats think a border wall and enhanced border security is a better approach than making it easier for immigrants to enter the country legally. I fall under that. I'm just gonna say that right now.
76%?
Under the they all agree. All those people, the 16%
That's true.
of Democrats, I'm assuming, are the Democrats that are actually smart and stand up people, and because the 68% of these other folk, 68% of the strong liberals say it's acceptable to illegally immigrate to the United States.
Which
No.
is definitely an interesting statement if you
Yeah.
look at it at its face. Like, it's acceptable to illegally immigrate.
Yeah, no.
Like, acceptable and illegal are actually two very different things, and they're opposites. So that's interesting. But what kind of strategies are being proposed about this? Because obviously there's some people on one side, a lot of people on one side who want more security, and others who kind of just say let everyone in. So how are we approaching this?
Well, what I think kind of spurred the issue right now is, for a while it was like, okay, totally fine. Biden's in office now and a new administration, come on in, basically. And then they realized, whoa, that's a lot of people. Like, slow down a little bit. And now they're reenacting some of Trump's old policies to kind of get some more security and restrictions around the border. The people up top in the White House are chirping back and forth, getting nothing done like they usually do. But people like Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican from Texas, he's provided a $250 million down payment for a border wall. So it seems like border walls are border wall construction is back getting placed underway.
Yeah, I don't think you can overstate how big of a deal that is.
Huge.
Because generally border security falls under federal jurisdiction.
It should.
And clearly they're not doing what they need to do. And Texas
is facing the brunt of...
They're suffering from
Yes.
that. And their governor is doing what it takes to
being a
fix
good
that.
governor. I love that.
So he's taking that into the state's hands
Mm-hmm.
to kind of protect his people and border security. So
Yeah,
that's
say
a
what you want about our government. I mean, thankfully states are still able to do stuff like this, take matters in their own hands if need be, and this is what he's doing, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, there's also a proposed strategy from the left as well. It's kind of
actually,
interesting.
Kamala Harris, our vice president, is spearheading a plan that calls for $4 billion in U.S. tax dollars to help pay for social and economic programs in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras that are aimed at convincing those countries' citizens to stay in their native countries rather than try to enter the U.S. The LA Times reported that. That's interesting. I know you and I kind of went back and forth on this before the show started. What were you kind of...
I think it's an interesting strategy, and it's definitely proactive. it's not generally what we think of when we think of border security
Mm-hmm.
and kind of strategies to approach that. It's different. I'm not sure how well it would do because again, like $4 billion, it's a lot of money to us. But when we look at it on a national scale like that, it's not going to solve a nation's entire problems.
No, and nor
And
will it
it's
stop migrants.
exactly, and that's what
Slow
it's
it
designed
down,
to do.
if at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
But
definitely
it's
it's interesting,
yeah.
and at least they're seeing it as a problem, and they're looking for ways to solve it instead of just saying everyone come in.
They just don't want to say close the border.
Yeah.
So they're trying to do it. They just
Yeah. There's such a hatred for Trump that they kind of bring in the things that he did, and they associate that with his personality.
Yep.
And just kind of say because Trump was such a bad person, or because we disliked him so much, we just have to get rid of everything he did, whether it was good or bad.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a problem, and that's why they're proposing things like this, where they're trying to do whatever they have to avoid bringing back Trump era policies.
anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look like you have,
they're essentially throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're saying everything that this man does, we have to like separate ourselves from. Which, first off, why would you do that? There's things that he did that were good. There's things that he did that were bad.
And they're proven to work.
Yeah, like why are we just because of this man throwing everything out? Like it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
But that's modern politics. If this guy's associated with anything, we know Trump was associated with building a border wall. That's what he was doing. So they're gonna cut that out, and they're gonna say no, like we can't do that. We can't associate with that, and that's Trump era.
No, I agree. It's overtly
Garbage.
political, and it doesn't
and
work.
it stops us from getting anything done. I mean, if literally we'll put say a Republican gets in next, just gonna be undoing all the crap that's going on right now.
Mhm.
Democrats win again, it's gonna be undoing everything it's just
Yeah.
going back and forth, and it's just something's got to change. And sadly, we citizens in general have really, we determine who gets in office
we
supposedly,
have very limited power.
but we
when
don't
it
we
comes
don't
to
have
that.
any power anymore.
Yeah.
All those decisions are made way above our head.
Mhm.
So what can we do? How can we respond to the border crisis as citizens?
Yeah.
We're going to take a biblical approach to this because the three of us, the founders of Talk Shack, are very open about our faith and where we stand on the Bible, and that kind of dictates how we make decisions, how we look at things.
Yeah.
We try to do our best to keep politics, and religion. We're giving you everything strictly. We're reading the facts. We're reading the statistics. What we see is we're going to give that to you and give our own thoughts on it. But when something like the border crisis, that's different because it involves people and how we're responding to them. So we're kind of going to give a little how we as Christians should respond to, and even as good people in general should be responding to the border crisis right now.
That's a really important point. Honestly, everyone, their worldview informs their politics and kind of how they view everything.
Yep.
Right. And like you said, for us, that's kind of that Christian worldview, and it informs how we look at these issues. And this issue in particular, it does deal with people, and it often gets viewed in a sense where if you take a harsh approach where you're law and order, like that's unempathetic.
Mm-hmm.
And the empathetic thing to do is seeing them as people and just letting them come in. But it doesn't have to be that. You
No.
can find a middle ground where you see them as people, you respect them as people, and you look at them as people that God has created and people that have value. But laws are in place for a reason, and they're important as well.
Yep.
So
basically, I just have a little point here for how we should respond as people. Now, I'm not even going to use the word Christian, just how we should respond as people.
Mhm.
Obviously, for those of us that are believers, the Bible tells us to protect and help those in need. Jesus says that a lot. The angry response to the arrival of busloads of mostly women and children in San Diego. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was floating around the news and stuff when they brought in these busloads of migrants, women and children. The people in San Diego were horrible to them, like protesting right out in front of the buses, like being just horrible to these people. Why are we hating on children? I mean, we're not to blame the children for any of this.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna be upset with someone, be upset with the adults. Okay. The adults need to be held accountable across the spectrum. As believers and generally good people, we need to watch our mouths, stay clear of hateful and hurtful speech. I think if we do that across the board, a lot of good things could be done. But the problem is we fall victim of that as well.
We have opinions, and we feel the need to make them heard above everyone else. Yep. And it definitely causes a lot of problems.
Yeah. Ultimately, these decisions are going to be made miles above our heads. What we can do as Christians specifically is give witness, offer evidence with our lives. Compassion for children is the biggest thing and should be happening across the board, whether you're a Christian, freaking Muslim, anything like that. Care for those in need is another big thing. I mean, if you see someone in need, help them. Okay. And communication that's civil. Civil communication is huge and something that, did you hear that? Let me mute my computer here. But yeah, civil communication is huge and something that we're seeing less and less of now, and it's really sad.
I think too.
No one cares what you think.
All right.
I'm just kidding.
Kids all of a sudden
Yo, flip the camera to yourself. We can do this now. Look at this. This is
true.
Awesome.
I think too. We also have to look at like why these people are coming.
Yeah.
Their countries are pretty crappy. America's a great country. I think we'd all agree upon that. I think most Americans would agree upon that. But these countries they're fleeing from, like, there's a reason they're fleeing. There's a reason they're coming here. And I think we need to also keep that in mind when we're talking to these people, when we're hearing about these people, because a lot of things. There's an old saying that was one person's death is a tragedy, 1,000 people's death is a statistic. And so when all these people are coming over, it's statistics. We're like, we're up in arms. We need to protect our border. We have, all these people coming through, and there's bad people coming through.
Oh yeah.
Like there's drug lords. There's all kinds of,
rapists, murderers,
mules, all that kind
molesters.
of stuff. Like bad people. But the women, the children especially, it's not on them. No. You know what I mean? There's a reason they're getting out. There's a reason their parents are trying to get them out. They're coming to America. They're coming to a land of hope, promise, freedom. And I think we got to kind of balance that with us obviously being upset that our southern border is flooded with people right now. You know what I mean? And the way that this administration is handling it too, like there are people, we have videos and evidence. Project Veritas has done a ton of stuff with this of them being at the border, under underpasses, huddled together in masses. We need to find ways to love those people first, and then from there work on policies to help them, get them in the country legally, and start fixing problems in their country. You know what I mean? Like Kamala Harris has a great idea. I'll give her that. She's a great idea at trying to keep them in their own country. She really does. But it's more than just advertising campaigns. Yeah. It's fixing the problem. The root of the problem is those governments, the corruptness and the lack of financial aid for their citizens, all that kind of stuff, It's tough.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a lot of really interesting points, and it really demonstrates the complexity of those issues. I'm going to disagree with the Kamala Harris. I think she's right in thinking that. But as a Christian,
you're good.
I kind of view that as a role of the church, right? Like we're meant to care for those people, the people that are in need, women, children, like that's our responsibility. And like international missions is definitely a part of that. I don't know if we go as far as we do. Like the three of us actually went on a missions trip together, and we kind of got it was an incredible experience. But we
got the green screen. Oh man, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm telling you, this is awesome. I'm sorry.
No, it's gonna be exciting for future episodes. Just kind of what we can do with that. But like there was a limit of what we actually did there, and a lot of it was kind of focused around us, like taking at our school. That's the thing. Junior class missions trips. And again, it was a great experience for us, but it was focused around us going to help them. Whereas like that should just be our goal. We're going to help people, and it's not about us and about our own experience. And if the church was really doing what it was meant to do, the government wouldn't have to give $4 billion to Guatemala, to these other countries to prevent people from coming to our country. But I think it's really interesting for sure. And it's hard, especially when you're a conservative and the conservative stance is just like harsh, just law and order.
Close it.
We have the law, close the border, build a wall. And in one sense, that's what it should be.
Which I'm for, by the way.
We have to, borders exist for a reason, and countries need to be protected. and it's the government's responsibility to protect its own country, not other countries. But
Yep. I agree with that as well. I mean, I like seeing Kamala Harris at least attempting to find solutions. Like, to me, that's good. You know, I'm not a supporter of her whatsoever, but that to me is great that they're at least thinking of solutions. You know, whether or not they're gonna go through with that or even talk about it after this, who knows? But at least it's being brought up. You know. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally fine with people coming here to seek asylum, whatever they're coming here for, a better life.
Yeah.
Because America's great. Okay. But we just got to find a way they can do it legally.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how bad it is here, people still want to come. So
Yeah, can't be that
I
bad.
think that just
Yet.
shows how bad it is other places, and we kind of find things to complain about as Americans. Like, we have it so good that we just create issues out of nothing. But I feel like we talked a lot about this topic, and maybe we'll touch on it again.
yeah,
And
I
we
mean,
want to hear
definitely.
from you if you think this is something you want to hear more about. We're more than happy to kind of dive in a little deeper. But for the sake of this episode, we're going to move on to the next topic.
We're going to talk about the $3.5 trillion baby, the Biden Pelosi baby right here. Basically, let's pull it up here. This week, Joe Biden and his fellow Democrats are trying to muscle through a partisan $3.5 trillion tax and spending spree. But what they're not telling us is the true cost could be much higher than that. And
It's higher than $0. Are you sure?
well, the total. Thanks to creative accounting tricks and misleading math from the Democrats, the package would come to more than $5 trillion.
Oh wow,
Trillion with a T, Trey. There's a T.
that's a lot of money.
Did you catch that?
I-
How many
I
zeros?
saw that.
Do you know how many zeros that is?
That's like a lot of zeros.
A lot.
It's like what, 12 zeros, 9. I think it's 12.
We start getting into
It's 12
numbers.
zeros. It's 5 with 12 zeros.
Yeah, but we start getting into numbers that, like, I can't even fathom.
Yeah.
Like, you think of, like, $1,000, like, that's a lot of money to me, right? $1 million, that's a lot of money.
That's like more money than you'll ever see.
$1 billion, that's incredible amounts of money. Trillion, are you kidding me?
It's ridiculous.
Let's dive into this. So we got a lot of stuff on this because it's interesting. Hold up, I'm gonna burp. Okay, I'm good.
Thanks for the warning.
You're welcome. I just want to be respectful to you and our viewers.
No, you're good. You're good. Couldn't have just gone away from the mic and done it.
Can I
without
get that
saying
far?
something? I mean, from the mic, yeah, for
all
sure.
right, you're right. Okay. All right,
3.5.
back to the baby. The bill contains a quasi-universal basic income, tax breaks, and government handouts for wealthy families in high-tax states, and new socialist programs that force American families to depend on the government from cradle to grave. That's been the Democratic Party to a T as of late. They basically want to take all responsibility off our backs. They want the government to handle everything. They want us to just sit back, live easy lives, pay $0.
But not actually.
But not actually. That's not actually how it's going to be. And if you believe that, maybe switch your university or college you go to because you're not being taught the right stuff at all.
Yeah.
I didn't go to school. Well, I did go for a semester.
A little bit.
I'm not smart.
And you don't need to go to school to know that.
No, I'm not
Every
smart at
time
all.
in human history where you've given the government more power and more power and more power,
You get less power.
when does that go well for the people?
Has it ever?
No, it's
Are you sure?
never succeeded once. And I'm not even talking just communism strictly. Like, anytime you give more power to the government, you're taking power and freedom away from individuals. And
Which,
power
by the way,
power
was
corrupts.
not why America was. It's not what America was founded on. Our government was not supposed to have the power it does right now. But we've gotten lazy. We just don't care, and we've just let the government get away with a lot of stuff. And now it's starting to come to the forefront, and citizens are like, "Whoa, hold up, wait, what?" And now we're powerless. What? Like, literally, what can we do to change anything? We can go stand
No,
outside the White House with our cardboard signs.
We're
Like,
looking
no.
at this bill in the Senate, right?
Yeah,
101 individuals, if you count the vice president, right?
the Viper.
The Vipe.
I like it. The Viper.
She's the VP.
She
it's
is a
fine.
Viper, dude. Like
Viper,
behind,
oh
she's
my
like.
gosh.
All right.
But yeah, like,
We love Kamala
you look
Harris.
at
We
a
really
country of over 300 million people, and there's nothing any of us can do right now.
Nothing.
Like, we're just waiting to see how this plays out. And fortunately, there's some Democrats who have been elected in highly Republican areas.
Who are smart.
You could say they're smart, or they're just worried about themselves and getting reelected,
Oh, yeah.
which is really what it is most of the
There
time.
are a few Democrats that are, the moderate Democrats I don't have a problem with.
The moderate Democrats are the Democrats who rely on a lot of Republicans to get reelected.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yep.
But like aside from that, we're relying on so few people to make a decision that it's truly going to impact all of us in the way that we live.
Yeah.
It's going to increase the debt by like 20%.
Whoa, no, it won't. And I'm going to
No,
tell you
it's
why.
going to cost us $0.
I'm going to tell you why.
Just please
Don't get
tell
ahead
us
of-
why.
you let me tell you their master plan, okay? They got it all figured out. Bernie Sanders has stayed up all night, probably for the last month, figuring this out. Because
He read the entire 2,500 page document.
nil. It's going to cost nil, Trey, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. To fund their liberal wish list, Democrats proposed the largest tax hike since 1968 that business leaders have warned would lead to widespread job losses, slower growth, and wage stagnation that would decimate the economy. Republicans are working to stop the reckless bill, saying it would hurt working families and boost our adversaries, including China. Wait, there's China again. What's up with Biden and China? Like, they're literally... Anytime you hear Biden, you got, like, China right next to him. Are they in bed? Do you think so? Honestly.
I don't know.
Yes or
Like,
no?
I don't.
Yes
I
or
don't.
no?
It's tricky. I don't like
Yes.
to assume
I'm
things.
saying yes.
I would say yes, but honestly, Biden's just. I don't think he's in control enough for that to be the case.
He's the president, though.
He's the president, but what does he really like? No, nobody looks at Biden and just thinks
That man's got it.
this dude is in control.
This man's a puppet. That's all he is.
You're wrong.
Like, he's in bed, they're butt buddies with China. Like, that's really what they are.
What? Is
Like, it's just the fact of the matter. We have become
that going to take
dependent
our
on China.
clean
No.
stripe away?
No.
No? We can say
I
butt
think
buddies?
that's appropriate.
Okay.
We gotta look up a list at some point.
We
Words
might
we
have
can
to,
say.
like YouTube's. I don't know.
I said
But
bull
anyways,
crap.
Biden and China are very much well connected. He cares very much about them.
Camera saw
and
that, Trey, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Wait, maybe it didn't.
It didn't see that. I was just pointing to Cade.
Yeah,
to,
flip the camera if you're going
to
to...
show himself off.
This
a
is
little
cool. Let's use our technology. Listen.
bit.
Do it. He's going to do
I
it.
absolutely
Oh!
hate having myself on screen, but it is what it is. There y'all go.
Oh, he's done.
Oh,
He's
that
done.
was quick.
Hey, but
No,
like...
I think you're right. Again, I don't like to get into it too much and just assume things, but
I do.
I think that's probably
I assume
accurate.
everything.
And if you're
No, yeah, so... Clearly, this is going to put us in a rough situation if it goes through, and... Well, let's there's more. There's a lot more to this.
I do want to point out a couple things.
Point 'em out.
Like what you said there, where you talked about what it would lead to.
Yes.
Widespread job losses.
But
currently in the United States, I don't know if you knew this, but we're having some employment problems.
That's not what Biden said, though.
Because the government,
Dude, he brought 10 million jobs to the country.
after taking away,
You don't know what you're talking about.
after taking away 50 million. Yeah.
Stop reading
No.
Fox News crap.
Not reading Fox News. This is experience. So
He brought 10 million jobs, but nobody's taking them.
Yeah, the government is paying people not to work. People don't go back to work. That's why McDonald's, places like that, they're raising their wage to like 15, 16
Who wouldn't
an hour.
want to work at
It's
McDonald's?
McDonald's.
I mean, come on.
Like you're getting paid to flip burgers, and it's nothing against people who work at McDonald's. Like
You better
any
be
work is
careful.
good work.
You better be careful.
But actually, I shouldn't say it. Any work is not good work. There's definitely some bad work. But McDonald's, like you're
Like
doing
sex
something for
trafficking?
society. Yeah, like that would be bad work. But I'm trying to stay focused. You're just
Sorry. I don't know. I don't know why I said that.
But yeah, like people aren't working right now, so you're gonna do things that are gonna stagnate the economy even further, and then these lockdowns already have.
What I want to know is where they get all this money from. Okay, like Biden's reckless tax and spending spree. Like we don't even know. Like they're not telling us anything. They just came out with this bill that, oh hey, we're gonna spend $3.5 trillion. You cool with that? You cool? And we're just supposed to be like, what? They're like, oh, it won't cost you a cent. It won't cost you anything, but it will. And I'm gonna tell you why. Anyways, but basically, this bill is going to wreck our economy and dramatically expand the scope and power of the federal government, which has been kind of how things have been going as of late. The COVID stuff, back to COVID, I mean, look at what the government's been able to do in just a
that's
year.
why this pandemic is never going to end. Those in
As long
power
as they want it here.
have gained more power as a result of COVID.
Yep.
Not just the government, big business as well. Like, it's crazy. Like, we're gonna get to a point where there aren't small businesses anymore. They won't be able to compete. Like, they've lost so many shut down. They've lost billions and billions in revenue, and big businesses, big companies, they've grown tremendously.
Yep.
Like, that's what COVID has done, and this is just gonna take that even further, especially for the government.
Oh yeah. So here's what Mitch McConnell, the Republican Majority Leader, said. He goes, "The Democrats' reckless taxing and spending spree is a far-left wish list that will hurt families and help China. For example, higher heating bills, electric bills, and gas prices. Democrats want to tear a big hole in America's wallets right where they can least afford it." Yeah, I'm not cool with the gas right now. So if you're telling me it's going to go higher,
Well, that's the green agenda.
how high do you think it's going to go? You think it'll be over $5?
It's up to $3.30 right now.
$3.40 in some places.
Yeah,
$3.5.
and we're not the worst place at all.
I mean, Trump predicted it, man. Like when he was in office, he predicted it. He's like $5, $6, $7 is what he said. Like
We're getting there.
If that's
We
where
are
you're
getting
going,
No, when you discourage this kind of spending so much, where you're at the point where everything's got to be green, it's all about the environment. That takes priority over everything, including like families' well-being.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why this thing came
going.
out. This is supposedly to help the climate, is what it's mostly going towards, with some hidden things thrown inside, which we'll get to later. But
they brought forward the Green New Deal, and everyone saw it and immediately was just like, "No, this is insane. This is incredibly radical." So they're like, "What are we gonna do? Well, let's just throw it in here. Let's just bring all the principles that we think are important in here, and not give it that name that's been viewed so poorly." Like, everything on this agenda, it's going to hurt people in the end. For what?
It won't hurt rich people, which is who they're going for. It's going to hurt.
I know they're like, it's going to hurt rich people. We're not going to tax people unless you make more than $400,000 a year. We're not going to raise taxes. No.
You know who's going to feel it? People like us, our parents. You know, hardworking middle class families are going to feel this the most.
we always talk about taxes. Like we really do. We always talk about taxes. However, you start thinking about the other things that are affected. Gas prices, like we've been talking about, like electricity prices. Those are taxes in themselves that are coming back towards us.
To live in society.
And I don't want to say that we should be getting them for free by any means. We need to have jobs. We need to pay for our own stuff. But when you start increasing the prices on that for stupid spending plans, that's when things start to get dangerous.
So you don't care about the environment, is what you're saying? I put him in a corner.
I think you can care about the environment and not take things so far.
Yeah, I agree.
Me
Thanks,
too.
Trey.
So let's hear what Grandmaster Bernie has to say, because I mean, this guy's a genius. The 3.5 trillion should be a minimum. But I accept that there's going to have to be give and take. You know, some people aren't cool with it, and he's okay with that. But a minimum of 3.5 trillion, that's what it should be. And he goes on to say, we've been through this a million times, so there are many, many approaches as to how we can raise money in a fair and progressive way, and raise at least $3.5 trillion. If that's what the menu is, then it's nothing particularly new, I think. You know, we could raise $4 trillion. The $3.5 trillion bill currently includes climate change provisions, universal pre-K, child care assistance, tuition-free community college, paid medical and family leave, the extension of child tax credit, and enhanced Medicare coverage. You know what it sounds like to me? They're pushing that stupid Obama plan that he had years ago. They're trying to just force that down our throats now.
Yeah.
You want to know what they hid in there as well?
Sure.
The little Pelosi had a little trick up her sleeve when she wrote this. She didn't write it, but she threw something in there. On page 168, you know, if you read it, everyone should read it. It's, 2,465 pages. Easy read.
Yeah, and obviously all the people voting for this have read it.
For sure.
They know every single detail of everything that's in it.
Mm-hmm. No, they don't. Like, don't take his sarcasm for serious. It's not. So the Democrats hid in the bill tenfold increases in fines for employers who don't comply with government's COVID-19 mandate. Oh, there's COVID again. And we're not done. Equitable bankroll for Biden's Build Back Better agenda and his climate justice funding. Like I said, it's on page 168.
Well, yeah, I think that's super interesting because you look at increasing it tenfold, so 10 times as much
Mm-hmm.
in the fines for people who don't conform to his, you could consider it unconstitutional, using OSHA the way that he is to invoke those fines for people who don't mandate vaccines federally. Like that's
Yeah, I think
it's
they said,
it's problematic
I think
in
they
and of
said
itself, but
businesses
then
could be
they
fined up to $700,000 or something
yeah,
crazy like
it's
that.
ridiculous. Like how do you get to that point?
Well,
And no business, well not no business. There are going to be businesses who push back against this.
yeah, they are.
And
They're saying like if you do this, you're gonna ruin the country and economy. So here's what Joe Biden has to say: his Build Back Better agenda will cost $0. Biden tweeted, "Instead of wasting money on tax breaks, loopholes, and tax evasion for big corporations and the wealthy, we can make a once in a generation investment in working America, and it'll add $0 to the national debt."
which is
What is this?
it's super interesting. That's a zero, and it's not what's happening here. Um, so looking at his exact quote here, instead of wasting money on tax breaks and loopholes, tax evasion for big corporations, those are the corporations supporting him. You really think he's gonna just take away all those benefits that they've received previously? He's not. Like those are the people giving millions and millions towards his campaign, towards other Democrats' campaigns. It's not. It's just not going to happen.
No,
They're going to keep doing the same exact things they've always been
he's got
doing.
to tweet the right stuff. All right, now let's
Well,
move on.
His aides have to tweet the right stuff.
Yeah, our producer's telling us to hurry up, so we're gonna do that. We will. Bernie Sanders also goes on to say, "I want it to be paid for, and in fact, that is exactly what we're gonna do. And if it's $3.5 trillion, we can pay for it." How do you guys ask? Is this supposed to be paid for? That's a great question. I don't know. Let's see what we figured out. So basically, as long as government revenue increases by as much as government spending, the effect on the federal budget will be nothing. And thus, the legislation doesn't cost anything. In the real world, of course, no one believes this kind of thinking or even acts on it. Not the executives or employees who work for companies that will be paying significantly higher corporate taxes and then passing these costs along to consumers. Do you want to? I see.
Well, no, like just that statement in and of itself, right there, where it says, "As long as government revenue increases by as much as the spending." The spending is 3.5 trillion here alone, not even considering what they normally spend on, which is usually above what their revenue is.
Yes.
Where's the revenue? What is
Quick
government
economics
revenue
lesson.
only comes from tax dollars.
Let's do a quick economics lesson for you. The only way the government makes money, taxing people. The only way they make money.
Yep.
So where's that money going to come from? Taxes.
Yep. So yeah, the corporate taxes are going up. Those taxes are going to pass along to consumers. Nor the individuals making more than $400,000 per year. And Biden's telling whose personal tax rates will go up. There will be real, actual costs to them, but the only costs that matter to the federal government are the ones to the federal budget. So, in theory, none to the federal government, but Biden and Pelosi can freely assert that the largest federal spending bill in history, which now hangs in the balance, will cost $0 somehow. Democrats have proposed paying for the measure mostly with tax increases on the rich and corporations. So there's your.
So I just did some interesting math here.
Let's hear
I
it.
decided I'm going to put 3.5 trillion and divide it by the population of the United States, 300 million, and that's not even counting like, I mean that would include children, which obviously could not pay taxes. They're not making money,
Let's hear it though.
and that's basically almost $12,000 per person. How?
Dude,
How do you say?
it's fine?
I don't have $12,000 sitting around, do you?
No, $12,000 for every person in the United States.
I got you guys covered.
To cover 3.5 trillion. It doesn't work out. Like there's no way this math works out. 3.5 trillion without adding to the debt is impossible, unless you just tax everybody till they're dead.
So yeah, so basically here by taxing, this is kind of how the business side of everything is going to work out if this goes through. So basically, businesses cannot arbitrarily raise prices. Rather, prices are determined by what consumers are willing to pay for a specific product. Regardless of a company's tax bill, a change in corporate tax rate does not shift the demand curve for a corporation's product. Consumers will not magically be willing to pay more for the good. Besides, if the company could raise prices on the product, it already would have. So corporations cannot pass along the cost of their tax to consumers without risking a drop in customer demand that would damage their profitability. Another common fallacy is the notion that corporate taxes are at least in part passed on to the wealthy shareholders in the form of lower returns or dividends. For starters, it's hard to argue that corporate taxes affect only wealthy shareholders when the majority of people reading this article, or what I'm telling you, are invested in a 401k. More to the point, empirical research shows that this is not the case either. So, all of that mumble jumble to get back to this. The real victim of corporate taxation are the workers. As
The workers and the consumers.
And the consumers. But as the Tax Foundation states, research indicates that in a global economy where capital is highly mobile but workers are not, labor is bearing the brunt of corporate taxation. A Journal of Applied Economics article surveyed a panel of 66 countries over 25 years and concluded that higher corporate tax rates depress wages. Specifically, the researchers estimated that a 1% increase in the corporate tax leads to a 0.5% decrease in wage rates. That's a lot of information, but this is like serious and will affect.
You are going through a lot of stuff here, but it makes sense. And to kind of simplify it a little bit, when you tax corporations, they say it's not going to be passed on to the consumers, but it always is.
Always.
Every time. Like, you can't just control prices like that without businesses going out of business.
Yep.
I guess that's simple. So if you do that, that's the end result. Companies no longer exist. And if you don't do that, like, the tax is just going to be on the consumers. It always is, because they're going to pass it on, or otherwise they don't make money.
Exactly.
But basically, all of this to say, it doesn't work. Like, we kind of
hasn't. It won't.
Yeah. We need this not to pass because it's going to impact us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. But, we need to watch this closely.
Yeah. But all of that being said, we're going to move on to the next topic now, and we're going to bring in our special guest.
Not yet. Hold up.
No, we got to get to it. We're really far behind this episode. And there's a lot to catch up on for sure, and some of that might have to bleed into the next episode, but we
All right, let me end this $3.5 trillion bill with a halfway solution. Let me just read this quick, and then we can move on and bring our guest in because I'm pumped. A halfway solution that might be more politically acceptable would be to slash the 35% rate with less dramatic impact. But why not just eliminate the tax, make life really simple, and stop paying all those accountants and financial engineers? This would be good for workers. Investors will still make money. Government revenue doesn't suffer. It's really quite simple.
It's very well said.
So yeah, is it going to happen?
No, it's not going to happen. We're not in a good place as far as politics line up. The party in control is not. They claim to have our best interests at heart, but even if they do, I just don't think they understand the problems well enough, and it shows.
All right, we're going to talk about Gabby Petito and her case. I'm going to wrap this episode up with a little bit of current events outside of politics. This is probably the biggest story in the news right now, outside of even probably above politics now. It was for a little bit anyway. We're kind of going to give a timeline of what happened, what we know, and kind of just warn people to maybe not jump to conclusions about things, because really no one knows anything. There's very little that's actually known. So
yeah, it was one of those cases that kind of blew up immediately. Like, she's a famous influencer, and as soon as the first detail came out about it, people jumped on, started posting about it, and a lot of that was done with little to no context. So we want to provide a little bit of that. So there's not as many misunderstandings or jumping to conclusions.
I mean, there's still going to be unknown variables because we don't know everything. I'm going to read a timeline of kind of what we do know and take it for what it is, and then pretty much keep your mouth shut until we find out what happened, because people, being little Facebook warriors, Instagram warriors, I don't know, whatever you call the Instagram people, just
White
shut
girls.
up.
Yeah.
Why don't you just shut up and let the cops do their job? Because you are not cops or law enforcement. We're gonna shut up as well.
Yeah, we don't know either.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go through and we're gonna read about the timeline. So September 1st, Laundrie returned to his home in Florida, hired an attorney, and is reportedly not cooperating with the police. Shortly after that, Gabby's friends flooded his Instagram, begging him to help in the research. Search. September 13th, Nicole Schmidt and Joe Petito, Gabby's parents, held a press conference asking for help in the search for their missing daughter. September 14th, Laundrie issued a statement through his lawyer saying this is an extremely difficult time for both the Petito family and the Laundrie family. I understand that a search has been organized for Miss Petito in or near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. On behalf of the Laundrie family, it is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful and that Miss Petito is reunited with her family. On the advice of counsel, the Laundrie family is remaining in the background at this juncture and will have no further comment. So the Laundrie family has been silent. Brian didn't say a word before he went missing, and his family hasn't said anything either. They have their attorneys said brief statements. An interesting thing though is why her family waited so long to speak up. I mean, it was like 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
For that, it took them to say she was missing.
Yeah, and I don't think you want to draw conclusions from that.
No, I'm just saying it's interesting. Like,
it's definitely an interesting thing.
They knew she was going to be out of cell service. I
mean, that's probably
the main thing, but
they knew she was on that trip and probably wasn't readily accessible. So.
Yeah, I mean, now the mom is coming out and saying she's not sure about that last text, but who knows what she thought at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she could have just been, oh, okay, well, and then they went and did this. You know,
yeah.
It's one of those things that people. That's
the thing
on.
With national coverage as well. It kind of draws those things out of it. But
so moving on, September 15th, Laundrie is named as a person of interest in the case of the missing vlogger. Cops said he is hindering this investigation by not cooperating with them. September 16th, in a shocking twist, it is revealed that police in Utah had responded to an incident involving Gabby and Laundrie on August 12th. So this was about a month prior, and there's body cam footage that shows Gabby crying uncontrollably when stopped by a police officer after reports of a domestic violence incident outside of a grocery store. The YouTuber is visually emotional as she tries to explain to the officer why she slapped her boyfriend during an argument. A lot of people, again, were saying that Brian, why would he do, and then it turns out that she was the one that was slapping. Who knows why? No one knows.
Yeah, and again, we don't want to speak into that too much.
But,
or jump to conclusions,
she was the one that was slapping on him and stuff. He had scratch marks. The couple was pulled over after driving off from an incident at the Moonflower Co-op in Moab, where a witness said he noticed Gabby hit Laundrie during a verbal fight. Laundrie reportedly told the officer that he had been traveling with Gabby for about 4 to 5 months, and their arguments escalated. So it sounds like they've been arguing quite frequently during the trip. In the police report incident, Laundrie is listed as the victim and Gabby as the suspect. Interesting. The officer wrote that at no point in his investigation did Gabby stop crying, breathing heavily, or compose a sentence without needing to wipe away tears, wipe her nose, or rub her knees with her hands. Additionally, Utah cops are not ruling out a potential link between the case and a couple's murder near where Gabby allegedly fought with her fiance. Newlyweds Kylan Schulte and Crystal Turner were found dead by a friend in the La Salle mountain range on August 18th, which is very close to where Laundrie and Petito were at the time. September 17th, a TikToker claimed that Laundrie allegedly offered her $200 to give him a ride as he hiked along Grand Teton National Park in Culver Bay, Wyoming on August 29th. Again, that's word of mouth. A lot of people, that I'm just throwing hypotheticals out there, but that girl could have just been saying it for the attention on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if it's actually true? Could have been, but we don't know for sure. And so, as of September 18th, police are scoring a vast reserve in Sarasota County as they desperately search for Laundrie after his parents reported him vanished after a few days before September 18th. September 19th, the FBI announced that a body found in Wyoming National Park is believed to be that of Petito. And then the autopsy was scheduled for September 21st.
And determined it was homicide.
And they did determine that it was her body, and they ruled it as a homicide. And so basically that's kind of where Gabby ends. There's not much. All they know, they found her dead, and she was It was a homicide. Now we move on to Brian. And our special guest, we're going to bring him in. He's one of the head honchos of the search. I'm not even gonna say who it is. We've got a special thing for him, and Cade, bring in our guest. And well, Dog's good to. No, we're just jinxing you guys. Dog's not here. How amazing would that have been if we got Dog the Bounty Hunter to come in?
Like our podcast next level. I mean,
Oh yeah.
First episode, season 3. I think we made a lot of improvements, but
Getting
that
Dog
would
the
have put it
Bounty
over
Hunter.
the top. For sure.
Yeah, sorry, we actually don't have Dog the Bounty Hunter. We just jinxed you guys. But again, green screen was pretty cool. Another reason for you guys to check out the YouTube channel, because you have no idea what just happened. But Dog the Bounty Hunter made an appearance on our set. So get to the YouTube channel and you guys can see him for yourself.
And there's a reason that he's here with us today, or not actually.
Yes.
He is currently leading the investigation.
Well, his own
investigation to find Brian.
Yep. So now we're going to get into what we know about Brian currently. Her sister. His sister, Cassie, said she saw her brother Brian on September 1st when he stopped by her home, and again on September 6th at Fort DeSoto Park. So she only saw him twice since he was home. And law enforcement agencies are well aware of these dates. Law enforcement continues to search for Brian, who was reported missing by his parents, who said he left on September 14th with a backpack, but left behind his phone, wallet, and he left to the massive Carlton Reserve near Sarasota. Police were told 3 days later on September 17th, and a multi-day search began for Laundrie. While he is currently not charged in Petito's homicide, Laundrie does have an arrest warrant issued by the FBI last week, charged with, which this is interesting, I didn't actually know this till today. He's being charged with unauthorized use of a debit card, alleging he used a Capital One bank card and someone's personal identification number to make unauthorized withdrawals or charges worth more than $1,000 during a period in which Petito went missing. They did not say who the card belongs to, obviously. And now we get to the dog and what the dog's been up to. Dog the Bounty Hunter, who is obviously searching for Brian Laundrie, has reportedly come across a fresh campsite in a Florida park where he and his team found a can of Monster Energy Ultra Gold.
What?
A fresh can.
So Ultra Gold though?
Ultra Gold. I've never had that.
I don't drink Monster, but
yeah.
I mean, must
you do
be
drink
important.
though. Just kidding. He doesn't.
Got some good green tea.
It is. No, for real, it's green tea. Shut up. It's green tea. Anyways, on Wednesday, he was at Fort DeSoto Park, some 75 miles from Laundrie's home, where Laundrie and his parents camped out on September 6th, 5 days after he returned alone from the couple's cross-country trip in her van. Why would you go on a camping trip? I'm telling you, this is a weird case.
It's a
the
super
families are
weird
the
case.
families
and it keeps getting weirder.
Yeah. The Laundrie's family attorney apparently disputes Dog's claims that the Laundries were at Fort DeSoto Park until September 8th. The attorney is saying the parents left the campground without him. And then they were interviewing a lady that lives at the park, or, is staying at the park, and she knows it very well, and she goes, "You'd have to be very skilled," which apparently he is in the outdoors, "but you could for sure hide out here. This is a good location in terms of being close to things, but also being able to kind of get away at the same time." So, it sounds like the area that people think he's in is basically a pretty good area to hide out in. So, the hunt for Brian is currently, going on, and it continues. And again, be careful not to jump to conclusions because this is a very confusing situation, and we basically know nothing.
Yeah, and from the sounds of it, it could go on for a long time.
It could be going on for a long time.
Because ultimately, they probably won't find out anything else until they can speak with Brian.
Exactly.
Which could be a very long time.
Or they find him hanging off a tree somewhere.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. But, got to throw all the possibilities out there.
Yeah.
So, we're going to wrap up the podcast with that in terms of topics, but we're going to tell you guys about some ways you can respond to us, get a hold of us, get in contact with us. We're very active on Instagram and YouTube. and you can find us on Twitter as well. But Instagram is probably the main way to get a hold of us. Just DM us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. There's a bunch of us that are on it, so you'll get a response very quickly. And tell them what they can message us about.
I mean, you can message us about anything. Like we're open to topics.
If you want to have a conversation about if you don't like something we said or disagree with it or want more information.
Yeah, we're more than willing to respond to comments on the show as well. Answer those questions. If we feel like it's an important one, we'll bring it on the show and we'll kind of discuss that for our entire audience. So
yeah, and the plan is to at some point get some live streams going on, so you guys can actually be live with us as we record, and that would be a great way to just you guys give us topics and we'll kind of give our thoughts on them and research along with you guys live for an episode. That's kind of the direction we're going. YouTube.
Yeah, we would really encourage you to check out our YouTube. Obviously, you can listen to our podcast on other platforms.
Yeah,
but
we realize Spotify is where most of our viewers are coming, or listeners are coming from, but we encourage you guys to go check out the YouTube. We got new equipment. Like I said, this whole time we got the green screen. A lot of cool things happen in this episode, so it'll be awesome for you guys to check it out.
Yep.
Just YouTube, The Talk Shack. We have links on our Anchor page, Instagram. You can find us. So yeah, we encourage you to go check it out. Comment, like, subscribe if you want to see more. But yeah, at least go check this episode out and see the new equipment and the new setup, really. And let us know what you guys think.
Yeah.
Is that it? We're going to wrap it up.
I think that's all we got.
First episode done. Season 3, episode 1.
Season 3, episode 1.
Stay tuned for more.